so welcome back, everybody. Week 3, leadership coaching with Coach K. That's me. So if you're just coming on board, this is a full 1-year-long leadership coaching workshop sessions, around 30 minutes. It may vary between 20 and 30, kind of based on the week and what's going on. But every week I share a principle or a lesson, kind of follow up on what has happened in the past week. I'm very down to earth and just transparent about what's going on. I'd love to have you guys share. So I'm going to focus on teaching and everything right here, and this is be streaming live. So someone from my team will be managing the chat, and then I'll definitely be following up with that afterwards. So I love the communication during the calls. It's just hard for me to watch the screen, and so I want to focus on what we're talking about and sharing. So that's what we do. All right. So generally, what we always do now that we've got momentum is cover what we've been working on in the past. So there's always some type of action goal at the end of these sessions that I challenge you guys to put into place. So last week was about restraint, and that could be you need to practice restraint, or you're too restrained. You need to loosen up in different areas. So my personal goal for me was about my phone, because it's always in my pocket, it's always in my hand, and to be able to set it down. So I would say definitely progress in that area, to the point where my wife, we were at dinner, and I always have my phone on the table next to me when we're eating, which is not needed, right? It's excessive. And we were talking about something. She's like, "Do you have your phone?" She wanted to look something up, and I was able to say, "No, I don't have my phone. It's over there." So I would say, yes, win. Previous week was not a win. I had set a little higher goal to be able to get something ready for a client, because I do social entrepreneurship consulting and coaching, in addition to this with you guys in this leadership and with temperament coaching and everything. So I was gone in California this past weekend, which is awesome. So there's always exciting things, right? So you get to share something that's really exciting, and then share something that's really stressful. It's a really exciting thing. I got to fly in a helicopter for the first time, and not just your basic, like go on a tour. It was actually with a sheriff's department, and patrolled the city and caught bad guys. Literally, like came on breaking and entering. Someone was stealing something. Someone stole a truck with a mattress on the back, and they were being chased by the police and us in the helicopter, and the mattress fell out. And so they stopped to pick up the mattress and got arrested. So that was definitely one of the highlights for me the weekend, flying out to California and going to that area. That was really great. Stressors. So, share something that's good, share something that's stressing. So share your highlights from this past week in the comments, or message me if you don't, if you're more reserved. I understand we kind of get a mix of people, but I'd love to be able to celebrate with you what those are. Stressors. There's some stressful stuff in my other job. So I teach at a university here right now it's Indiana State, in Terre Haute, Indiana. So some stressful stuff there a little bit. I won't go into detail on it, but that's kind of the stressful thing. So, this is all part of it. Like, we need to do life with other people and be honest. And particularly for guys, I know I recognize I have men and women on these calls and watching everything, but particularly for guys, we have a hard time doing that. So this is an outlet for you. And if you don't want to, once again, you want to message me directly. I'm here. I'm your coach. I'm your leadership coach. So last week was restraint. This week is about inspiration. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started here. So there's a sheet, there's a link to this page that's always available. It's available here on the Coach K Facebook page. You can look at if the video is being streamed. And there's also a link to it. You'll see it here in the feed, and probably someone from the team is posting that up there. You can download it, write on it, highlight things that you find are relevant to you and everything, and then we'll go from there. So here we go. Inspiration. Hope deferred brings sadness, but when dreams come true, there's life and joy. So the idea being, and we'll unpack this, and you can unpack this lots of different ways. For me, when I hear that statement, it's the idea that whenever things aren't clicking, and I've had this in my life for sure, whenever things are not going well or as you hoped, then your heart kind of falls out of it. But when dreams come true, and you're actually stepping into these seasons, and there's some really cool stuff going on, I would say currently in the state of the world and in the state of sports, and there's exciting stuff happening, that you feel energy. I personally feel very energized in this current season of my life, with different things that I'm going on. Working with you guys in this context I love it. This is not a burden for me to do this. And once again, this whole series is free. You're not paying for these calls and these sessions. and they will always continue to be free. I love the way to be to use. I think everyone has their skills and talents and giftings and everything. Humbly, I think this is part of mine that I'm good at, to be able to share and to make the world a better place. So I love working with entrepreneurs and doing consulting with them as they're trying to pursue some type of social good. And so I do that on the side, which leads to really cool stuff like helicopter rides. But this is an aspect of me and kind of my business practices. I like to reach out and give back first, give and then something comes back. So that's what I do. So I'll go through the rest of this lesson and I'll highlight concepts, my thoughts on it, but then also highlight how it fits into different aspects of temperament, which we can talk about another time. If you're interested, you can look it up. All right, so we'll dive in the lesson. You ready? Inspiration comes from dreams. To foster inspiration, we must create an environment where minds can dream and work freely. We channel inspiration by providing boundaries that become the framework or guideline for creativity. Now I'll stop there for just 1 second, because many times people frame, boundaries and constraints as bad. They actually keep you from being successful. They keep you from being free to create, and it's not true. Like when you set a boundary, and this is a whole principle we'll talk about later, but when you set a boundary on something, it actually focuses your energy on something. You actually, I think, produce you produce higher quality work, whether that's content creation, feeling something in your hands, and I'm working outside. If I focus on something, I do a much better job than just kind of, the expression lollygagging, right? Just kind of messing around. So when you set boundaries, they become the framework for guideline or creativity. To motivate means to stimulate the mind and the spirit of a person. This is done by presenting possibilities and dreams that can become reality, which will encourage them to pursue those dreams for their own future. When you don't have vision, when you don't have something that you're working towards, you're just not as energized. When you do have something you're excited about, you push towards it. And as I teach business at a university, I talk about that with my students. As a good manager, I teach a lot of management courses. As a good manager, if you can tap into what is inspirational for your employees, so whether this is a work context or your volunteer context or church or not-for-profits, any one of these scenarios, like when you tap into what someone loves doing, they're going to do it whether they get an extrinsic motivator, whether they get paid or some type of benefit or perk or something, because inspiration is powerful. That's what this is all about. So if people are led rather than driven, they'll be motivated from within, and they won't need to be controlled by external laws, those extrinsic things. This becomes their purpose or reason for living. In our businesses and organizations, even our families, if we provide incentives or dreams within the framework of our personal goals and ambitions, both will benefit. Our intent for inspiring others will always have to be for their benefit as well as ours. Otherwise, it'd be unfair, and in the end, just boomerang back on us. So like, this is always, well, you're just doing it for you. If it's just for your sole personal benefit, then yeah, I would say that there's something missing, and it's borderline manipulative, unethical. But when you're doing something only for other people alone, and it's rarely can you really do anything that doesn't benefit you. Even completely self-sacrificing thing, you get the sense of satisfaction. So let's just be honest about that, right? It feels good to give. It feels good to help other people. It does make you feel better. That's why people, when they go on these trips overseas to give, or they go and benefit, it's not like they're completely just like draining themselves in the process. And many times we do, and there's issues with that. But it leads to a benefit for us. But if it's purely just for us, it's not going to work. It's not sustainable. People will stay away from you. So find ways, to give that are really truly enjoyable, and that they're good. All right, so fear is also a motivator. If we control people by fear only, we're poor leaders. Good leaders understand the importance of rules and even the fear of consequences, but also understand that laws generate resistance. If there are only laws, sooner or later there will be rebellion. If we have no dreams, we see no opportunities, we lose hope. And when we lose hope, we get angry and we feel unfulfilled, which can lead to despondency and even cause people to commit suicide. So as long as there's hope, we can, and most of us will, keep on going. Hope comes from seeing possibilities, and possibilities come from active and creative minds in those boundaries. So in order to develop a long-lasting, successful family, business, or even society at whole, these things scale up well. We have to design a system that gives everyone personal dreams opportunity, and hope. So there's a whole lot in that paragraph. It's probably 2 paragraphs really in this section. So let me go back a second to the concept of fear. Fear and consequences. Those aren't in themselves necessarily bad. They're useful. Just a threat assessment, leads to that fighting, flighting, or freezing, which I found out I'm more of a freezer. I didn't know that. But when you go through extreme situations, like I went through earthquakes and when I was living over in Nepal, and yeah, it was much more of a freeze. So you have to know that but you don't know that until you're thrown in those situations. So intentionally, many times you have to kind of plan and think ahead of what you want your response to be. And I've, some situations, I've made decisions about what I want my response to be. I'm in higher education, I teach, and it's become a dangerous profession the past few years with incidents at schools, with shooters and everything. So, I've decided in my mind what my response would be in such a situation. And I don't want to give it away because that gives the element of surprise. So if there are bad guys watching, if you come to my classroom, there's going to be consequences. But fear in general you don't get the best out of people with fear. You get a response, but you don't get the best. So that's the idea, is that there's a really interesting book, Creativity Inc., talking about from one of the founders of Pixar. And what I took away from that book, what I really found fascinating, was the idea he made it his mission as CEO to eliminate fear from the organization. And it's a very creative organization, right? If they're not creative, they're not creating great content and movies and stories that inspire and connect with people. So there's this the idea that in order to get the best out of people, in order to get these creativity going and to get fantastic results, you have to remove fear so people can give. And the fear of failure, particularly in the entrepreneurship startup environment, you're going to fail, and you want to fail as fast as you can, as often as you can, to get to that end result. So if you fear failure, you're not going to be successful. And when you're fearful, you're not feeling inspired either. You're like, what? There's no when fear is there, there's no place to be inspired, because you don't feel safe, right? Going back to, kind of kicked off some other videos, talking about Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. You're down there in safety. Like, you're nowhere near up here to self-fulfillment and then transcending yourself and giving back, because you're afraid. And that doesn't really work. So you have to be able to work through that. There has to be structure. There has to be consequences, but that's more to kind of create a guideline, not to inspire. And we're talking about inspiring. We're made to have ideas, to be creative, to calculate, analyze situations. So when leaders try to stifle creativity, sooner or later, people will analyze the unfairness and they're going to break away from the control. We can't stifle individuality forever. Communism was a good example of this. The system was built on keeping everyone equal, having all things in common. Their idea was to give man food, clothing, shelter, and expect them to be happy, right? Like, base of the Maslow pyramid, like, have this and you're going to be happy. And it's a failed experiment. It didn't work. It sounds like a good philosophy, but it doesn't work, because we're not all designed to be the same. We're not designed to be the same. We're creating value in human life at the basis of it. But our outcomes are going to be different, because each one of us can make choices. We have free will. We have different gifts. We have different temperaments. We have different ideas that come about. This means some of us will pursue things more than others. And it's going to bring different levels of understanding and opportunities. And, the things you've gone through, the things I've gone through, or we live different lives. The things I've experienced, things you've experienced are different. And because of that, you have access to knowledge and experiences. You have access to people that I don't have access to. And vice versa. I have access to people and knowledge in places that you may have never been to. So there's value in the exchange and everything. That's why, once again, I love, there's a lot of things I love about this process. Like, as you read and you think about and you listen, different ideas come to mind for you to take action on. But there's things that, we get from each other working together. That's why I love teaching in the classroom. I learn from my students all the time, and they ask questions, they frame things, or you have children, right? You just learn so much, right? Next one, effective leaders use incentives and dream planting for motivation. Fear of loss has to be a part of leading, but it's a last resort. Once again, that's the kind of it's the guideline or the rails to keep things from going crazy, but that's not the goal. Focusing on incentives and dream planning creates a powerful force within families and employees. They'll in turn become self-motivated. They're going to need less management. Their work becomes their own because they're working towards personal goals, which is a part of an overall vision. So like I said, going back, tying what you love, tying what you're passionate about, tying what gets you excited and energized to a bigger picture. Now there's some, and I would generally classify them more as generally a specific temperament that are they're not just the dreamers and the people that have visions, but they're the ones that really take action, and they're able to bring people into that vision. It's not constrained to entrepreneurs. Every industry has this kind of this mentality, but there's commonality across these traits. Generally, they're cleric and temperament, and they're the ones that actually they create space. They're the ones their shoulders are broad enough to carry a lot of weight, and they push through even when everyone else says it's dead. It's not going to happen. When you tell them, if you're this temperament and I tell you can't do it, you're like, watch me do it now because you told me I can't. So it's not and it's all the bigger and fastest and the best. So there's these people out there, right, that create these initiatives and create these new products and service and programs and stand up for particular causes that they're passionate about. And they create space for other people to come underneath that and to lend their skills to something else that they're passionate. They love creating things. They love budgeting. They love reconciling accounts. And I love doing this, but I also love these other areas of life. When you can partner those things up, where you need these people, these drivers, these people that push forward. They need those people very well to organize. So hitch your inspiration to something else and see what happens. It's really exciting. Or if you want to grow something, we can talk in another context in entrepreneurship coaching, and I'll see if your idea will work on finding a way to make sure that idea works. All right, benefits of this aspects of inspiration. By encouraging creativity, we create an inspirational environment that benefits everybody. People who are inspired see a better future for themselves. They create better futures for everybody when you're inspired. When you're at your best, you're giving, it's in your best interest to be at your best state, but it's also in the best interest of everyone around you for you to be in your best state. Which is great, right? Like when I'm at my best, my students get the benefit of that. When I'm at my best, my family gets benefit from that. When I'm at my best, employers and clients get the best of that. You get the best of that. When I'm not inspired, you don't. We will see different gifts and talents emerge that enrich us all. That's the same idea. No one's the same, and we inspire each one to develop their individual talents, and together we reach new levels we never would have reached alone. Once again, I'm giving, you're giving, and we create something that neither one of us could have created on our own. Less control or micromanagement is necessary when people are inspired to reach come. So, setting these boundaries. When I was working in more of a traditional business, when it was not a traditional business, but working in a business context, and I was I had a large staff that I was responsible for, and then those staff responsible for literally thousands of workers, and it's very easy to set constraints and rules and try to set structure and control via those policies. I hate that. I hate that process because once you set a rule in place, you have to enforce it. If you don't enforce it, it hurts you more than not setting the rule at all. It would actually be better to not set a rule and not enforce it than it is to set a rule and not enforce it, because then you start to lose capital, you start to lose credibility, you start to lose influence over what you're trying to lead well. So as a leader, so if you're tapping into inspiring the right people in the right places, it takes less energy. You don't have to manage all these individual parts. Ask people to step up and to lead what they want to lead. And if they're inspired to do it, they're going to do a much better job than you in your limited capacity can set frameworks around it and try to control it. So less, as a phlegmatic, I love anything that takes less energy. I am all for it. Possible steps for staying inspired or getting inspired. Write your vision out. Write out what it is that you want to see happen, what you want to accomplish. Keep it very simple. Include the specific groups that's going to benefit from it. You have to know who is going to care about this, or who's going to get the most value out of this. It can't be you, right? It has to be something else. It has to be other people. Share it with others. Make sure everyone who depends on you or your organization knows and understands what that vision is. That's a common problem. is that these founders, right, these people that push new initiatives, they don't, they try to keep it in their mind as some type of mastermind plan, but they want to tell people what's going on, and that's just an error. Could be pride, could be fear. There's a lot of driving factors. People present something on the surface, but there's generally like a lot of self-doubt or negatives that's kind of drives that. So it's not out of confidence that we hold things back. It's out of fear. And once again, fear doesn't create our best. It doesn't lead to inspiration. Share it with others. Make sure people know. Live it out. Live your vision out. Convey your dream and what you do and what you want to achieve. So if you believe in it, beliefs, and then it's valuable to you, then you need to take action on it and demonstrate that through your choices. So if you want to see something happen, it means you're going to have to push aside instant gratification, self-gratification, Netflixing for 10 hours on the weekend, and learn about it, pursue it, go after it. Give incentives. Good leaders offer excellent incentives to help others achieve their dreams, and this will cause people to be more self-motivated and need less direction. So wait a minute, this is all about, you shouldn't have to use incentives, right, to get things. Well, it's like the starter of an engine. So the starter of an engine kicks off this process and causes reactions and gets it going. So without a starter, engines aren't going to go. It's either starter or you got to push start. We don't do this much now in American with modern vehicles, but if you had you push it, have the clutch, pop it into gear, and then you're going to get the engine going. So yeah, incentives should be kind of starters. They're kind of guiding, but if you need incentives all the time to keep a process going, then something's wrong. And you need to look back and say, we need to find a better way to make this more inspiring, to get the right people on this role. If you have the right people on it, it's going to take less incentives to keep it going. Fight for it. Overcomers never surrender, and those that surrender are never going to overcome something. So inspiration is a battle. You have to fight for it, because it can't come from it can't come from other people. It has to come, and I'm not going to say it has to come from inside of you, because I think inside of us is actually, I personally don't believe that inside of you is your inspiration. I look inside myself and I see a hole in a garbage that I don't want to actually be sometimes. I look out for inspiration. I personally I look to God and I'm inspired, and situations that God would bring me into, or that I would say is God. So you do whatever you want, right? But that's just kind of the reality, is that you're not going to necessarily find it inside, but so it's going to be outside. You're going to have to chase it and have to go after it. All right, here's the best part. Here's where it gets intense. So what are you going to do to take some of these concepts? What did you find interesting? And what are you going to be able to do to process that and put that into action? So I'll be honest. So on my business trip, I tried to record some of this from a deck overlooking the mountains, because it seemed inspirational, and the video didn't work. Didn't record. So this is actually my second time. So normally I get to this point, I'm like, oh, I didn't actually make a goal. So this is a little easier for me this time, because I've thought about this lesson a little bit more. And so for me personally, my inspirational goal is I need to write. Some of my business goals that are in my mind are not written down. I'm winging it, which is a general trait. I'm phlegmatic, but I'm also sanguine. That's definitely a sanguine trait, just kind of wing things. So I've been winging it. So last week's action goal, be restrained, keep my phone out of my hands or my pocket more, which is good. I feel happy about that. I'm going to continue to do that more, be aware of that. This week's goal is, in regard to inspiration, will be to write down some things that I want to be accomplishing in different aspects. Whether that's family or some work goals, some other business goals on the side, multiple different streams of revenue and activities that I work on. But a lot of that's not really written down yet. So kind of write it down. That's my personal goal. Last aspect too is, sharing this. So if you had to take this concept, take, everything we've talked about so far and condense that down to a sentence or two, how would you share that with someone? Because if you can't share something in your own words, in the spirit of the moment with someone, it hasn't really gotten inside of you just yet. So for me, energy comes from inspiration, and inspiration requires dreaming, and dreaming requires you to be fearless. Spur of the moment, for me, in terms of, as I think back to what we just talked about and read, so inspiration gives energy, energy requires dreaming, and dreaming requires you to be in a state of fearlessness, so if I was going to meet someone to say, and they're struggling with feeling inspired, that'd kind of be my go-to. That's how I'm going to package and wrap this up. So how would you wrap it up? What would you do to be able to share this with someone? Because when you share it, it's actually going to grow. You're going to think about it more. It's going to be more impactful. And I want this to be shared. This is for you guys to be able to use these paper lessons. You can print these off, use them in whatever context you're in: work, school, family, not-for-profits, churches, whatever. Feel free to use these lessons and everything. I was able to access some of them for free in the past. So this is week 3, right? There's one more, which I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. You're going to have to come back and pay attention and watch, see what next week is. Then the week after, so 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now is one that I personally wrote through some research and study and experience living in developing worlds and development stuff. So, I've really been passionate about looking at, what causes poverty, which you can flip around. It's like, what causes success? We're going to dig into that, and it's very relational, and I love it. So generally, I'm pretty chill sitting on the couch. I'm going to be standing up for that one. So stay with me 2 more weeks. That's what I ask for. I believe that if you take these concepts and you run with them and you're trying them and you're putting them into practice, you're going to see some really cool results. I know people that are watching are already seeing changes in their lives. They're seeing changes in their energy level, seeing changes in their focus, seeing changes their family starts to observe things. Like I said, I've done this overseas. I've done this in other places with thousands of people, and it's really cool stuff. Really cool stuff that happens to people as they put this into practice, because the principles, the concepts of themselves, it has nothing to do with me. Absolutely zero to do with me in my skill set or my role or education. It's just about when you latch yourself, when you grab a hold of something that works, guess what? It works. It's just that simple. So that's it. Hope you have a great week, and I'll be waiting to see what your goals are. So message me, comments in the field, share this video. You can share it once it's all done processing live. Or just, pass along to friends. Have conversations with people about, what is there, and find out. Ask your friends, like, what inspires you, and really start to ask yourself, and dig into what inspires yourself personally as well. Have a fantastic rest of the week.